Welcome to my emergency tuning tutorial for violin and violas. Let's call it that. So, ideally, you're going to learn how to tune by ear. It's a skill you're going to develop with time, etc. Hence why this is called emergency. Okay? When you really need your violin tuned and no one can help you out, you're going to have to do it yourself. And here are some little tips on how to do it, okay? First thing I would do is play each string once. If you don't know how to bow the instrument because you're a parent or someone helping out, you can do both, okay? Usually your ear can tell if you're really out of tune, especially if this is something you play often, okay? If some of the strings are really, really loose that they don't even make a sound or they're unplayable, that we're gonna call that extreme tuning. I'll do that in another video, okay? The second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna get a tuner. This is a guitar tuner from 16 years ago. I still use it. So it doesn't have to be a fancy tuner, a specific brand. There's all shapes and sizes. They clip on, they do all sorts of fancy things. Generally, any tuner works for the violin. To be safe, maybe a string tuner, but I mean, it doesn't even say string tuner or guitar tuner on this, okay? So just, if you already have a tuner in the house, use it. You don't have to go and buy 10 of them for each family member. If you don't have a tuner, you can use an app. There are apps that you can pay for and there are apps that are free. Apps are generally not as accurate than a physical tuner, but hey, I've used them and you know, you use what you have, okay? So I use a free one. I'll put the name of it on the description, and it's worked pretty well considering it's an app, okay? So you need to know the names of your strings. So if you're playing a violin, you have G, D, A, E. Viola, C, G, D, A, okay? The reason why this is important is that when you turn on whatever tuning device, you have to make sure that the note you're playing, the name of it appears in the corner. For example, if I play the E, let's get this working. So first thing you want to do is turn it on. I did not turn it on. There you go. Turn it on. If I play E, the letter E should appear. You'll notice it was moving and the letters were changing. It was taking my voice. So whenever you tune, don't let people talk around you, okay? And don't talk. No matter how frustrating you guys, don't talk because it'll confuse you, okay? So we have the letter E in the corner, okay? Maybe some numbers will appear and stuff. Don't worry about that. As long as you have a plain letter and it's the right letter, then you're close, okay? So let's say you have your E is your E, your A comes out as A, each note comes out like it's supposed to. Then you're gonna look at the line, okay? If the line is in the middle and you have the right letter here, you're good. Not all of them line up green, but all of them do have little lines that go in the middle, okay? Now a lot of people will tell me, oh, it moves back and forth. See that? This isn't that bad. But the line will move back and forth and it confuses them. So that often has to do with how much pressure you are putting either when you bow the note or when you pluck it. Okay, the vibrations, this picks up the vibrations and it tells you kind of what note it is. So once the vibrations start to drain out or if they're not very regular, it starts to panic and it goes in all directions. So if you're bowing your note when you're gonna tune, which you can do, make sure you don't go. It has to be super even. If you put a lot of pressure and then nothing and then more, your line's definitely gonna be moving around, okay? Same when you pluck it. It has to be a very even pluck or you have to be, I would do 4 even ones. If you're not able to do a very even pluck, go 1, 3, 4. Okay, like that, you're kind of sure. Same for the next string. Now I'll show you. We're gonna get this a little bit out of tune. Here's the next thing you need to know. My violin right now is in tune, so it's always gonna come out green and in the middle. If it's slightly off, but the majority of the time it's green, you're good. Don't change it. If the majority of the time it's showing red or it's not in the middle, it's either over or under, then you have to change it, okay? So this is how it works. If you're on the right note and you're just a little bit above, and I'll give you an example now, you're gonna turn these guys. These guys are called fine tuners. So let's try the A real quick here. So you can even hear that, that's off, and it says it's too high because it's over that middle line, okay? This would be too low, and this becomes too high. So what I'm gonna do, when a note is too high, we need to lower it, so we need to turn to the left, okay? You're gonna turn to the left. Everything you do with a violin and a viola, you're gonna do ever so slightly. This is a small instrument. It's very sensitive. So even if it takes you 2 hours of tiny little turns, better do tiny little turns than to turn it all the way and then have a mess, okay? So I'm gonna turn it a little bit more. I've turned this much, look. That's how much I'm doing each time. And even if it takes me 3 turns, I'd rather do 3 tiny turns than 4 massive turns. Still slightly out of tune. And I'm now a smidge over the line. Now it should be good. Okay? If your string, is too low, like this one, look. My E is too low. So I need to make the note go higher so it hits the center. I'm gonna go to the right with my fine tuner. I am still too low, but I'm higher than I was before. So let's try it again. Now we're gonna keep turning. Oh, just about there, okay? A couple things to look out for. Make sure it says the letter with nothing else. If it's like A and a number, A2, for example, it's okay. But if you have A sharp, which would be this, that's a bad example. A sharp, there you go. Or if you have either of these symbols next to your letter, I'd be a little bit careful. For example, on mine, maybe different tuners differ, but if mine says A sharp, I'm no longer an A. I'm another note. Okay, I'm an A sharp. That turning this usually won't be enough. Okay? If your A, for example, turns out to be a B, imagine the letter that comes out here is B, that means the tuning cannot be done by these little guys. These are called fine tuners. They're to just adjust little changes in the note. If it's an entirely different note, you're gonna have to use this. And this is a pain, okay? So the alphabet goes in A, B, C, D, E, F, G in music. We stop at G. There's no H, okay? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once you've reached G, you restart counting A. Why am I explaining this to you? If your A turns into a B, you're gonna have to turn these downward because it's too high. A, B, okay? If my A is a G on the tuner, we're gonna have to go up higher. I'll have this all written down so it makes a little more sense. So, up makes the note higher, down makes the note lower. If you come to the point where you have to use these guys, this is where you have to be very careful and where you can often break strings. I've broken a lot of strings learning how to tune, okay? And unless you have some handy, I wouldn't be turning them around, okay? Or unless you've tuned other instruments. So, one thing to remember, a lot of people just turn up and down. That doesn't work on the violin. You have to push inward and then turn up. okay? There is no mechanism like on the guitar with screws. A lot of people go, oh, I know how to tune a violin, same as a, this instrument. There are no screws. This is purely on air pressure, and that's why it's so sensitive to weather. The wood expands and unexpands, and it goes back and forth. All right, the way a violin functions hasn't changed for like over 100 years or more. Guitars have been modernized. This hasn't. So you got to be very careful that you would push inward and then up. When you turn these, if I turn my fine tuners like this much, this I'm going to turn less. This is how sensitive it is. Push in, smidge. And even if it takes you forever, push in and smidge if you have to get your note higher. If you have to get it lower, often it'll go down quicker than you. It'll be hard to stop. You can always bring it down and then bring it back up if you have to. Okay, this is a little bit more of a pain. I can explain this more in detail in another video. So don't talk when you tune your instrument. Test it out first. Check always for the letter. Make very even sounds when you play so you can have more of an accurate note. And then you have to check the alphabet all the time. So your E could be an F, that means it's too high, or your E could be a D, and that would mean it's too low. Okay? If it gets to that point, don't use your fine tuners, use your pegs, and that's a big pain. I'm so sorry. I hope this helps.